Oh, please, God, help me. Hey, it's Sue in the restricted section, and as promised, I have a big old book haul for you today. I bought way too many fucking books, like way too many books in April. Let's just get into it. So this one, I might have actually bought this in March, I'm not sure, but I got it at the dollar store, so it's only $1, and it is called Dear Leader, and it's by Zhang Jinsung, and it's this author's story of escaping North Korea. He was a poet, well, still is a poet, I'm sure, but he was a poet in North Korea, and he wrote propaganda stuff, was very, you know, in favor with Kim Jong-il. Then he saw, you know, he traveled outside the city and saw how people were actually living and was like, I can't do this anymore, I have to get out. So I thought this would be another interesting one. I read In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park 2 years ago, and I thought that was fantastic, so I thought this would be good to have, you know, another perspective. And then next I have my Book of the Month Club pick for this month, and I chose Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. This is about the Osage Indians in Oklahoma who, back in the, I want to say 50s, 20s, way off, back in the 20s, they were very rich, they had a lot of oil on their land, and then they started getting murdered. And so this is about that and figuring out what was, you know, who was killing them, and also somehow this led to the birth of the FBI. So that sounded really fascinating to me, and I've been hearing great things about it, so I'm excited to read that. And then I have a couple from the thrift store, because why not go to the thrift store when when you don't need any more fucking books. But I got this one called Elvenbane, and it's by Andre Norton and Mercedes Lackey, and look at this creepy looking dragon on the front. It kind of freaks me out. And I haven't really read a lot of high fantasy, so I thought I'd give this one a try. So this is set in a world run by these elven lords who, you know, keep humans and half-breeds as slaves and, you know, are just awful. And Serena is a human woman who is a concubine to one of the elven overlords, and she finds out she's pregnant with his child and flees to the desert, and then she's dying. The dragon shaman named Alara helps deliver her baby, and then raises the child as her own, and then the child, Shauna, goes on to have many adventures. I think this is the first book in a series, so I'm sure more happens later with Shauna. But yeah, I thought I'd just try it out, see if I like it. And then the other book I got at the thrift store is Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. And this is about two people who have what seems to be a, you know, just perfect relationship. Then it says, things are even more remarkable than they've seemed, an emotionally complicated twist. The perspectives shift, and what began as a story about one extraordinary union becomes so much more. And I've heard mostly really great things about this, so, you know, it was at the thrift store cheap, so I thought I'd check it out. And it apparently came, it says no longer property of Seattle Public Library, so unless there's a Seattle, Missouri, which there could be, there's a Houston, Missouri, and a Louisiana, Missouri, and a Mexico, Missouri. And a Versailles, Missouri, and yes, it's pronounced Versailles here. Then this traveled a long way to get to the DAV in Springfield, Missouri. I'll go ahead and show the 3 books that I got at Hooked on Books while Megan and I were there. You might have seen that in our vlog, but I did pick up this edition of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas because it is unabridged, and I've been trying to find an unabridged version of it, so there it is. And I would like to reread this someday. I don't know if it'll be like in my immediate plans, but I would like to reread this someday. And then I got another classic, and that is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And I've read this before as well, but I just really like it, and, you know, I thought that I could use a reread because it's been a very long time since I read it, and it's like a little short one, so yeah. It's a really great little book. If you haven't read it before, you definitely should. And then I got Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I've heard a lot of people talk about this on BookTube, and it sounds really interesting. There's something outside that if you look at it will drive you in, like, will make you go insane, literally. So this follows a woman who, she and her 2 young children have to, like, they have to go outside and go, like, leave their home and go somewhere else. But they have to do that blindfolded, because if they, you know, see this whatever it is, they'll go crazy and die. So yeah, I've heard it's really good, and it sounds like such an interesting concept, so I'm excited to read that one. And next I'll do the book outlet purchases I made. I actually made 2 book outlet purchases this month. Just what's wrong with me? I don't know. But the first one I have is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I've been wanting this for a while. It's kind of considered a classic these days, I believe, and it's, I think, also kind of was a pioneer of magical realism. This tells of the rise and fall of the mythical town of Mocondo through the history of the Buendia family. I'm kind of intimidated by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but I also, like, really want to read them really bad. So I have this and Love in the Time of Cholera that I hopefully will pick up one of them soon. And then next I got this book called B is for Beer by Tom Robbins, and it says a children's book for grown-ups, a grown-up book for children. And I honestly thought this was going to be much smaller, and I thought it was going to be like, I thought the book was going to be just a joke. I thought it would be like a picture book, and I thought, hey, I could read that on the channel, but it's actually, like, kind of long. So I really couldn't, it would be a really long video if I read it on the channel. There's some cool pictures inside of some beers, well, just that one really. But I think it's actually kind of a serious book, and it follows a kindergartner named Gracie, her distracted mommy, her insensitive dad, her nonconformist uncle, and a magical butt-kicking intruder from a world within. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Next I have Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, and this is a brief history of humankind. And that's, you know, what it is. It's the history of humankind from the very first human to now. And I've heard great things. I ordered these before I was realizing, like, how much I was disliking reading The Dispossessed. But I got The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin and The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. And I mean, I do want to keep trying, I do want to keep reading her, because I don't know, I just, like, I feel like I'm supposed to really love her, and I want to. So I'm gonna keep trying, but I don't know how much longer I'm gonna keep trying. The Lathe of Heaven is about, let's see, in a future world racked by violence and environmental catastrophes, George Orr wakes up one day to discover that his dreams have the ability to alter reality. And then he sees a psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist starts manipulating George's dreams for his own purposes. Sounds good. We'll see. And then The Left Hand of Darkness, this one's pretty well known. I think it's maybe considered her best work. And I think it actually seems like it might be kind of similar to The Dispossessed, which, fuck, I hope it's not. I hope it's not. So this is about a man who travels to a planet called Winter, and it's an unknown world, and the aliens who live there can change their gender, can choose to change. And his goal is to get Winter to join this intergalactic civilization. Hoping for the best with this one, but cautiously optimistic, we'll say. And then I have James Tiptree Jr., The Double Life of Alice B. Sheldon, and this is a biography by Julie Phillips. Alice B. Sheldon is a science fiction writer, but she first published under the name James Tiptree Jr. Because, you know, being a woman writing science fiction was not very popular. Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to read about her. I haven't actually read any of her books yet, so maybe I'll read one or two of her books before I read her biography. I don't know. And then this book was kind of the whole reason behind why I made a second book outlet purchase, because you know I've been kind of collecting these Puffin classics, and they had Robin Hood, which is one that I didn't have. So I really wanted that, because look how beautiful it is. I think we all know the story of Robin Hood, so there's that one. It'll go over here with my Puffin classics. And then I got Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. This says it is shocking, violent, terrible, horrible, uncompromising, brutal, remorseless, and gruesome, but so is war. And you might know about this book because the song One by Metallica is based on this. So in this book there's a character who he loses his, does he completely lose his arms and legs? He can't move or communicate, and he just wants to die. Next I got The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I've always wanted to read some Shirley Jackson, but it says Hill House is gathering its powers and soon it will choose one of them to make its own. So I guess a little bit more than a haunted house, maybe like a possessed by Satan house. Then I have Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw. This is a play, and it is what the movie or musical My Fair Lady is based on. And I've heard that the play is a little bit different than the movie, so I wanted to read it. I've heard that it's really good. Next I got Quiet by Susan Cain, and this is a book about introverts and why they're great. So I think people always think it's more desirable to be an extrovert, and so this is about, you know, kind of all the great things about introverts. So as an introvert, I thought I'd love reading great things about myself. Next I have No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. I've been wanting to read some more Cormac McCarthy ever since I read The Road, and I've seen the movie of this one, although I don't really remember the plot of it, to be honest with you. So this is about a guy, a good old boy, who finds a pickup truck surrounded by dead men, and a load of heroin and $2 million are in the back, and he takes the money and then sets off a chain reaction that not even the law can contain. Next I have Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. I've heard Aaron from the Book Brew talk about Neil Stephenson, and I believe he said that Snow Crash was a good place to start with him. So I thought I'd start here. And okay, first of all, the main character of this book is named Hero Protagonist. H-I-R-O, Hero Protagonist. So that already makes me like it. But he's a pizza delivery boy, but in the metaverse, he's a warrior prince. So he's plunging headlong into the enigma of a new computer virus that's striking down hackers everywhere. He races along the neon-lit streets on a search and destroy mission for the shadowy virtual villain threatening to bring about infocalypse. Snow Crash is a mind-altering romp through a future America so bizarre, so outrageous, you'll recognize it immediately. Next I have The Inconvenient Indian by Thomas King, and this is a curious account of Native people in North America. And I've heard that this is fantastic and, you know, also of course devastating considering what happened to the Native people of North America. And next, I guess I was on a nonfiction kick this month. They just went all crashing down. Because I got this one called White Trash, the 400-year-old untold history of class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. I've again heard good things about this one, so I think that'll be really interesting. Okay, and lastly I have the books that I got the first day of the library sale. I got The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. I had actually seen Gary, who frequently comments on our videos, had mentioned this. He said he really liked it at the time that he read it, so I thought I'd check it out. There's like no synopsis on it, but I'm guessing it's real witchy. I don't know. Then I have a classic of the Ozarks, which is The Shepherd of the Hills by Harold Bell Wright, and this is set in what is now like Branson. I think it takes place probably in like the either 1800s or early 1900s, I'm not sure. But it's about a man who comes from like the big city to live here, and says he finds the peaceful atmosphere he craves while his more intellectual philosophy and character come to be valuable elements in the lives of his new friends. So I'm not sure how I'll feel about this. I know that it has like heavy Christian themes, which, you know, not really something I'm into, but I thought I'd check it out. It's a huge, like, I don't know that a lot of people have heard of it outside of the Ozarks, but like in Branson there's like an amusement park type thing called the Shepherd of the Hills, and you know, so people know it here. Next I have A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole, and I've heard this is really funny. Again, there's like really no synopsis. Hopefully that'll be fun. Next I have one that's probably not so fun, which is The Plague by Albert Camus. Never read any Albert Camus, thought I'd check it out. It's set in a North African town that is struck by plague, and so it's about, you know, the people in this town and how it drives its victims to almost unearthly extremes of suffering, madness, and compassion. Next is Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt. This is his memoir. It's very famous. I'm sure you've heard of it. I've heard it's fantastic. I don't know, you know, what exactly is so special about it, but I guess I'll find out. Next I have Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. It's like set in, or kind of maybe even after, a zombie apocalypse, and this one zombie, I think he eats a guy, and then that guy's girlfriend happens to show up around him, and he ends up protecting her from the other zombies, and then I think like they kind of fall in love and he maybe becomes human again. I'm not sure, but I've heard it's good and it sounded like maybe a fun, cute read. Cute for a zombie novel, I guess. I haven't seen the movie. This is obviously the movie cover, but next I have Jazz by Toni Morrison, and I think this is like the second book in the trilogy that includes Beloved. I don't think the books are like actually connected. They can be read as standalones, but this one is set in 1926, and this has to do with a man who shoots to death his lover of 3 months, impetuous 18-year-old Dorcas. Ooh, he was dating an 18-year-old. It says he was in his 50s. His wife looks like is mentally ill. It says in a dazzling act of jazz-like improvisation, moving seamlessly in and out of past, present, and future, a mysterious voice whose identity is a matter of each reader's imagination weaves this brilliant fiction. Yeah, it's Toni Morrison, so I'm sure it's gonna be great. And then I also got Paradise, which is, I believe, the third book in that trilogy. And this says, mother was knocked down the stairs by her cold-eyed daughter. 4 damaged infants were born in one family. Daughters refused to get out of bed. Brides disappeared on their honeymoons. 2 brothers shot each other in New Year's Day. Trips to Denby for VD shots common. And what went on at the oven these days, not even to be believed. One thing that connected all these catastrophes was in the convent, and in the convent were those women. Sounds mysterious. Next I have We Were the Mulvaneys by Joyce Carol Oates. Joyce Carol Oates is another author that I've never read and want to. I have Dear Husband, which I picked up at a different library sale, but I wasn't sure if that'd be a good place to start because it's a collection of short stories, so I don't know. I thought this one might be a better place to start because I think this is like her most well-known novel. There's an incident that is hushed up in the town and never spoken of in the Mulvaney home that rends the fabric of their family life with tragic consequences. This follows Judd, the youngest son, who's now an adult and attempts to reclaim his family's past by documenting their history. The next book I got is Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison. I've heard Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings talk about this book a few times on her channel. I believe it's one of her very favorites. And it is about a girl in South Carolina. I think her stepfather is really abusive toward her, if I'm not mistaken. It says he becomes steadily colder and more furious until their final harrowing encounter, from which there can be no turning back. So I've heard it's like pretty dark and disturbing and there's some really messed up stuff in it, but I've also heard it's really, really good. So then I got The Devil's Mode by Anthony Burgess, and this is a collection of short stories, and I've read 2 of his novels before and enjoyed them both, so thought I'd give this a go. Next I have Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, and this is the stupid movie cover, as you can see, but whatever, it was cheap, so I got it. I honestly don't really even know like anything about this. I haven't seen the movie. I've heard it's terrible anyway, but I've heard the book is fantastic, and that it's like really, he writes like really kind of bizarre, weird stuff, so I'm into that. Next I have Chocolat by Joanne Harris, and again movie cover, but I don't really mind that this is the movie cover because I love this movie. Yeah, that's why I picked it up, is because I really love the movie, so I thought the book is usually better than the movie, so I thought I'd check it out. This is about a woman who moves to a small French town and opens a chocolate shop, and the people of the town are like very uptight, very religious, and she kind of loosens them up and opens up a whole new world to them. Next I have The Accidental by Ali Smith. I read The Seer last year and really liked it, so I thought I'd try this out, and I think it's actually somewhat similar to The Seer. This mysterious stranger shows up during a family's summer holiday, and it's about how she affects all of their lives. Next I have Shift and Dust by Hugh Howey. I already have the book Wool, which is the first book in this, I think it's a trilogy. I think there's only 3 books. So I was like, oh, how awesome to find the other 2 at the library sale for, I think I paid $1 for each of these. I mean, I won't go into what the sequels are about. I'm not actually sure. I'm pretty sure Shift is actually a prequel. But Wool is like a dystopian where I think the air outside is deadly because it's just too, I think, polluted. And so people are like living in this silo, and then something happens. I don't remember, but it sounded really good. I've heard great things about it, so I just went ahead and you know, picked up the other 2 books in the series. So hopefully I really like Wool and will want to read the other 2 books. And then the last book. We're at the end. The end is nigh. It is Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. This is about a woman who's a painter, and she's pushing 50, it says, and she returns from Vancouver to Toronto, and Toronto is a city that she fled from many years ago. It says Atwood has given fascinating dimensions to the ambiguous roots of women's relationships, both with one another and with the world. So there it is, Cat's Eye. It doesn't sound as creepy as the cover would lead you to believe, but that's okay. So that's it. That's the end of my big ass book haul. Yeah, if you've read any of those books, let me know what you thought, and there'll be links below where you can find myself and Megan other places on the internet. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!